be together.
What's going on, everyone? I'm Jaren, and I'm pretty sure you can hear it in my voice, but I have definitely been under the weather lately, so I've been sitting on this review for quite some time. So today we are going to be talking about Together. Years into the relationship, we follow Tim and Millie, who find themselves at a crossroads as they move to the countryside. With tensions already flaring, an encounter with an unnatural force threatens to corrupt their lives, their love, and their flesh. Now, I have been on a relationship horror kick as of late, and it's only because those are the type of horror movies that I have the most fun in discussing and dissecting with my better half. There are points that we agree on, disagree on, learn, share perspectives, and even unveil a sense of catharsis by comparison of our failed relationships and the ones that we've gained. And some of those movies pretty much consist of Companion, Gerald's Game, Hard Eyes, 2020's Invisible Man, Midsommar, and even 1981's Possession, which I really enjoyed for the first time recently. Knowing that real-life couple Dave Franco and Allison Brie were going to be starring in a horror comedy together immediately perked me up, because if you've ever seen any of their interviews and promotion for this movie, they are a powerhouse couple upon their individual and dual personalities and chemistry. Now, I didn't want to bring up this subject, but I thought it was very important to note that earlier this year, when Together premiered at Sundance, the producers of an indie film called Better Half filed a lawsuit against writer-director Michael Shanks, Dave Franco, Allison Brie, and Neon for plagiarism, claiming that they pitched their own idea back in 2020 to Franco and Brie, only to reject the offer and then suddenly produce and star in a movie that was somehow similar to theirs. Michael Shanks upsettingly responded that his script was independently crafted and also inspired by personal experience, submitting it to the Writers Guild of America back in 2019. And the representing legal team has also added that the ideas are not remotely similar and that neither clients own this particular concept. I guess we'll see how things get settled in court, but while I didn't see the lighthearted and comedic Better Half, I am team Together on this one because surprisingly, this turned out to be one of my favorite horror films of the year. While a movie like Companion zeroes in on manipulation, gaslighting, and also our relationship with technology, I like that Together gets the focus on the relationships that have come to a crossroads that inadvertently dissolves into toxic codependency. What's happening to our characters where their bodies are being pulled closer and closer together as they try everything physically possible to stay apart also paints a nice little metaphor about how we are afraid to lose our sense of identity, lose ourselves into our other halves. Getting into the technical specs, I adored the cinematography. The framework, especially the sequences that took place in the dark, were carefully crafted with care and had me darting my eyes around every frame because it absolutely left a lot of the viewers vulnerable for a jump scare. And I admired the even wider establishing shots, especially them feeling a lot more grand than they should be, because the closer and more intimate shots really had me uncomfortable for specific scenes. I thought the editing was brilliant, where it keeps at a really nice pace with the narrative and it complements the humor, the banter, the existential dread that's happening with our main couple. And some people might say that the editing might hold back a lot more of the insane and more bloodier set pieces, where personally I thought that it gives you just enough to be effective and not overindulgent as a video nasty. The practical effects and stunt work that went into their physical performance, how their bodies would magnify to one another, or how difficult it was to separate certain body parts from one another, really gave me chicken skin. I mean, I think the sound design is what really had me white knuckling and fidgeting in my seat every 2 minutes. Every time the bodies of our main characters began to crave one another, the physical sound of skin and bones were so enhanced that every time you heard squishing, cracking, or the sound of breathing just felt really unnerving. And speaking of sound that is very effective, and this only works if you're in an auditorium that has really good surround sound, but this jump scare somehow is the one that got me. But there is a moment where the camera is fixated on Dave Franco, and all you hear is the sound of footsteps running from left to right, shooting down a staircase, and then immediately, physically, uh, ending with a bang against a glass door, which I don't know why. I knew that was coming, and it would just freak the hell out of me. Getting into the talent here, we've got Dave Franco and Alison Brie as our main characters, Tim and Millie. Franco, at first following his brother's steps into Hollywood, where he was just up and coming, picking up a lot of minor roles, where he immediately became a recognizable face, and also a lot of comedies. Brie, I was always a fan of hers since TV's Community, and I followed her career since, and I really just can't wait till they finally do the Community movie, but she is a talent to behold. And I also really like that, especially in their earlier interviews, where they really crossed roads before they actually met. They actually auditioned for Scream 4, where Franco didn't get a call back, but Alison Brie did. Having started to date back in 2011 to getting married in 2017, the couple have starred in various projects together, such as The Lego Movie, Little Hours, The Disaster Artist, and later on pretty much expressing how much of big horror fans that they were. And Dave Franco also wanted to showcase his directorial skills for the very first time with an indie film called The Rental, which, in my opinion, was pretty okay. It could have been better, but it also starred Alison Brie, and I really wanted to support both of them for that. And having them starring in this movie together only really made me more excited. If you're not coming in for the twisted body horror, then you're here to see a real-life couple who are very well known for their charismatic personalities to hash it out in a horror flick. I was just buzzing with a big smile on my face at how good they were, because they delivered performances that were far beyond their reach, far beyond anything that they've done before. And it is just one thing to act alongside your real life partner, but it is one thing to sell it to the audience that you have come to a rough patch with your other half, that the light to that relationship is coming to an end, that it is just fading. Tim is still chasing his dreams to become a musician, and Millie is adamant about solidifying her career as a children's educator. And by making this big move to the countryside, you can tell immediately that they are not physically and mentally on the same page. A lot of the dialogue was well written and executed, where a lot of the passive aggressive banter felt so raw with resentment and imbalance, where bringing up a lot of thought provoking subjects such as naming a boyfriend and girlfriend a partner when you've been living with them for quite some time and not married, or also saying things or doing things that may or may not be an indirect hurtful action towards the significant other. Even the unnatural horror that's really unraveling them from the inside out heightens the metaphor about what's really going on in the relationship. And as awkward and as over the top as some of those moments may come across, I really like that they keep a nice balance in the narrative to where we get to understand both sides of the argument, where both sides could either be wrong or right. Getting into my mixed negatives here, if there is one thing that the hype ruined for me over this movie, is that I kind of wish that the body horror was a little more gratuitous in this movie, especially with the way that they advertised it. I just wanted more blood. I just wanted more carnage candy, but I am not at a complete loss with this, only because with some of the editing choices that they decided to go with really paid off with some comedic relief. There were some integral reveals towards the third act that created more loose ends, and with the ambiguous route they decided to take, left us with more questions. There's also a CGI effect that was utilized towards the very end of the movie, which I felt like a lot of the creatives were at odds with one another, where the initial ideas were probably very different, because the reaction that we get towards the end of the movie kind of ended in a whimper. Like, I wasn't sure whether to be kind of weirded out by that CGI effect, whether we were supposed to laugh at that CGI effect, or look at that effect and be like, oh, you know what, that works. Overall, although this doesn't necessarily reach the crescendo of many body horror auteurs and their masterpieces, Shanks, Franco, and Brie prove that they are a triple threat to the genres that they set out to conquer. I was so invested in the lives of Tim and Millie that my mind was racing with many questions of what happens after that ending. The on-screen pair express their love in the most twisted and outrageous way yet. This is a batshit crazy date movie that is worth seeing with a crowd. Well, that's all I got to share about that movie. Go ahead and check it out if you want. Look forward to more reviews. I'm Jaren Angbanawag, and I want to thank you guys again for taking some time out of your day to hear me talk some movies. I'll see you guys at the theater. In the meanwhile, take care.